The colony station hung in silent space near a dying red star. Its metal walls were old. Its shield systems were weak. It had never been built for war. It was a trading post, a peaceful place where ships stopped to rest, refuel, and exchange goods. For many years, nothing dangerous had come this far. Until now. Commander Rian stood in the main control room, staring at the large screen before him. His hands were calm, but his eyes showed worry. Red warning lights blinked across the display. Enemy ships holding position, one officer said. They have formed a full blockade. Outside the station, dark shapes floated like shadows. Raider warships. Large. Armed. Silent. They had arrived without warning. At first, the colony thought they were just passing through. Then the raiders destroyed the long-range communication satellites in seconds. Now, the station was alone. No outgoing signals? Rian asked. None, the technician replied. They jammed everything. Rian nodded slowly. He had feared this answer. Inside the station, civilians moved quickly through narrow halls. Families gathered in safe rooms. Workers carried supplies to storage areas. Fear spread quietly, like smoke. The colony had only a few small defense ships. They were old patrol craft, not war machines. They are scanning us, another officer reported. Weapons powered, but not firing. Rian understood the message. The raiders were waiting, watching, measuring weakness. A soft voice spoke from behind him. We cannot win this. It was Elder Bram, the oldest officer on the station. His back was slightly bent, but his mind was sharp. Rian did not turn. I know. Bram stepped closer to the screen. They will break our shield slowly. They enjoy fear. The control room grew quiet. Power levels were already dropping. The raiders had targeted external generators first. How long can shields hold? Rian asked. Maybe 2 days, the technician answered. If they attack seriously, less. Rian closed his eyes for a moment. 2 days. He opened them again. Ration power. Move all civilians to lower sectors. Prepare emergency medical units. Orders spread quickly. Outside, one of the raider ships moved forward slightly. Its hull was covered in heavy armor. Large weapon arrays pointed directly at the station. A message came through on a short-range frequency. Rian allowed it on the screen. The face of a raider captain appeared. Cold eyes. No emotion. Surrender peacefully, the captain said. Your station will not be destroyed if you cooperate. Rian felt anger rise in his chest. And if we refuse, he asked. The raider captain smiled faintly. Then you will serve as an example. The screen went dark. Silence filled the control room. Bram spoke again, softly. Many years ago, we helped a ship. Rian glanced at him. This is not the time for old stories. It is exactly the time, Bram said. Rian said nothing. Bram continued. A human ship. Damaged. Burning. It drifted near our sector. We could have ignored it. It was not our problem. I remember, Rian said quietly. I was young then. We saved them, Bram said. We repaired their engines. We fed them. We protected them until they could leave. Rian nodded slowly. Their captain said something before he departed, Bram added. Rian looked at the blinking red lights on the screen. Humans make many promises. Yes, Bram said. But they do not forget. Before Rian could answer, alarms rang sharply. Energy spike detected. A technician shouted. All eyes turned to the main display. Deep space, far beyond the raider fleet, flickered strangely. It was faint, just a ripple, like space itself had trembled. Source? Rian asked quickly. Unknown. It vanished. The raiders noticed it too. Several enemy ships turned slightly, scanning the darkness. Then everything returned to stillness. It was probably nothing, one officer said nervously. Rian stared at the empty space where the ripple had appeared. Keep watching, he ordered. Hours passed. The raiders began controlled strikes against the outer shield layer. Bright flashes lit up space. The station shook. Shield strength at 70%. Civilians cried in distant corridors. Power dropped again. Rian walked through the halls later that night. He saw families holding each other, children asking quiet questions, workers preparing for the worst. He felt the weight of every life on the station. Back in the control room, another alarm sounded. Energy spike detected again. Stronger this time. Longer. Space in the far distance shimmered for almost 3 seconds. Even the raider ships adjusted formation. "What is that?" one officer whispered. Rian felt something strange in his chest. Hope. Or fear. He did not know which. The ripple faded again. The raiders resumed bombardment. Shields dropped to 50%. Rian looked at the dark void beyond the enemy fleet. They were alone. No signals were getting out. No help could arrive in time. And yet, the void had moved. Just slightly. As if something far away was listening. The raiders did not rush. They were patient. Outside the colony station, their warships moved slowly in a wide circle. Bright lines of energy fired again and again, striking the shields in careful patterns. They were not trying to destroy the station quickly. They were breaking its spirit. Inside the control room, Commander Rian watched the shield meter drop little by little. 43%, a technician reported. The station shook with another impact. Dust fell from the ceiling. Somewhere deep inside the structure, metal groaned. "Outer defense grid is gone," another officer said. "We have only internal shields left." Rian kept his voice steady. "Keep emergency power ready. Move all civilians to the lower sectors." The halls were crowded now. Families carried small bags. Medical teams helped the weak and elderly. The sound of fear was everywhere. Soft crying, whispered prayers, nervous silence. In one storage room, Elder Bram stood with a group of young officers. "They are playing with us," one of the young officers said angrily. "Why not finish it?" "Because fear is a weapon," Bram replied calmly. "And they use it well." Another heavy blast struck the station. Lights flickered. Back in the control room, a warning signal flashed. "Shuttle launch detected," a technician shouted. Rian turned sharply. "Who authorized that?" "No one." "It is a civilian shuttle." On the screen, a small transport craft broke away from the docking ring. It was old and slow. It tried to move around the edge of the blockade. The raiders noticed immediately. One dark warship shifted position. A single bright beam fired. The shuttle disappeared in a flash of white light. Silence filled the control room. Rian closed his eyes. "They will not allow escape," he said quietly. The raiders sent another message. The same captain appeared on the screen. "You see," he said calmly, "there is no rescue. There is no hope. Surrender now." Rian forced himself to stand straight. "We will not." The raider captain tilted his head slightly. "Very well." The transmission ended. Moments later, the bombardment grew stronger. Shield strength at 30%. The station trembled violently. Several screens went dark. Smoke rose from damaged panels. In the lower sectors, civilians held each other tightly. Children cried openly now. Rian felt the pressure building inside him. He turned to Bram. "If we surrender," Rian said slowly, "maybe they spare the civilians." Bram looked at him carefully. "Do you believe that?" Rian did not answer. Another alarm sounded. "Energy surge detected," a technician shouted. Everyone froze. The screen showed the same region of deep space as before. But this time, the ripple was stronger. Wider. Even the raider ships reacted quickly. Several of them turned fully toward the disturbance. "What is causing that?" an officer whispered. "Reading high gravitational distortion," the technician said. "It looks like a jump signature, but unstable." The ripple faded again. The raider fleet hesitated for a few seconds. Then they resumed fire. 22% shields. The control room lights dimmed to emergency mode. Rian felt the weight of the decision pressing on him. "If no help is coming," he said softly, "then we must think of survival." Bram stepped closer. "You still doubt?" the old officer asked gently. Rian looked at him with tired eyes. "It has been decades, Bram. Humans have their own wars, their own problems." Bram nodded slowly. "Yes. But humans are strange." "How?" They do not always fight for power, Bram said. Sometimes they fight for memory. Before Rian could reply, a loud explosion rocked the station. A section of outer hull was hit directly. Shield strength at 12%. The Raider fleet moved closer now. Their ships tightened the circle. They are preparing boarding craft, a security officer reported. Panic spread through the room. Commander, a young technician said with shaking voice, there is another energy surge. The screen flared bright. This time, the ripple did not vanish quickly. Space twisted. A deep vibration passed through the sensors. Even without sound in space, it felt like something was screaming through the void. The Raider ships pulled back slightly, confused. What is happening? One officer whispered. Long-range scanners struggled to read the disturbance. Massive power spike detected, the technician said. Origin unknown. Then, the ripple expanded violently. A tear opened in space itself. Bright blue and white light burst outward. And from that tearing void, something massive began to emerge. The shape was huge. Metallic. Armed. The Raider fleet froze in place. Inside the colony station, everyone stared at the screen in silence. Rian felt his heart beat faster. The object pushed fully out of the distortion field. Its engines flared wildly, releasing unstable energy waves. It did not arrive smoothly like normal ships. It arrived like a storm, like something angry. Identification. Rian asked, almost afraid to breathe. The sensors locked on. The technician swallowed hard. It is human. The warship's engines roared with raw power, glowing like fire in the darkness. It did not send greetings. It did not request permission. Its weapon systems powered instantly. The Raider fleet began to scatter in panic. Inside the control room, no one spoke. Because for the first time since the siege began, the void had answered. The human warship did not slow down. It came out of the torn space like a blade. Its engines burned bright blue, unstable and loud on every sensor. Energy waves rolled outward, shaking nearby ships. Even the Raider fleet, which had been so confident moments before, pulled back in confusion. Inside the colony station, Commander Rian stood frozen. It's really human, one officer whispered. The warship was massive. Its hull was dark gray, covered in heavy armor and long weapon rails. It did not look new. It looked scarred, like it had survived many battles. A signal burst across all open channels. The human ship did not ask questions. It fired. A bright beam of concentrated energy shot from its forward cannons and struck the nearest Raider cruiser. The blast was clean and direct. The enemy ship's shields collapsed instantly. Before the Raiders could react, a second shot followed. The cruiser exploded into burning fragments. The control room of the colony filled with silent shock. The Raiders scrambled to form defense lines. Smaller ships moved to protect their larger command vessel. Multiple targets locking onto the human ship, a technician reported. But the human warship moved fast. Thrusters flared. It turned sharply, far faster than something that size should move. Missile bays opened along its sides. Dozens of missiles streaked through space. They did not scatter randomly. They curved, adjusted, and struck precise points. Engines, weapon cores, shield generators. Another Raider ship went dark. Inside one of the Raider command ships, alarm screamed. How did they arrive so fast? One alien officer shouted. The Raider captain stared at the screen in disbelief. Destroy it, he ordered. All remaining Raider ships fired at once. Bright lines of energy slammed into the human warship. For a moment, it disappeared inside a storm of explosions. Inside the colony station, several officers gasped. Rian clenched his fists. When the smoke cleared, the human ship was still there. Its shields flickered, but they held. And now its main weapon was charging. A deep pulse of energy built at the front of the ship. Sensors struggled to measure its output. Energy levels rising beyond safe limits, a colony technician said in awe. The human ship released the shot. A thick beam of white-blue light cut across space and hit the center of the Raider formation. Two ships were destroyed instantly. A third spun out of control, its hull torn open. The remaining raiders began to retreat. "They're pulling back," an officer shouted. The human ship did not chase wildly. Instead, it positioned itself between the station and the raiders, like a shield. Then, finally, it transmitted a message. The voice was calm, deep, controlled. "This is Terran Warship Valiant. You are attacking civilians under Terran protection. Withdraw immediately." The raider captain answered quickly. "This system is not Terran space," he snapped. "You have no claim here." There was a short pause. Then the human captain replied, "Protection does not require ownership." More jump signatures appeared on the scanners. "Commander," a technician whispered, "additional human ships incoming."
1, 2, 5.
Within seconds, 10 more human warships tore out of faster-than-light travel. They arrived cleaner than the first, but just as armed. The raider fleet was now outnumbered. The raider captain hesitated. The human ship Valiant powered its weapons again. "We will not repeat this warning," the human captain said calmly. Inside the colony control room, Rian finally allowed himself to breathe. "They came," someone whispered behind him. The raiders made their decision. One by one, their ships turned away. Engines flared as they prepared to jump out. The human fleet did not pursue beyond a certain line. They held position, watching, waiting. Within minutes, the raider ships vanished into deep space. Silence returned. The human warship remained directly in front of the station, engines glowing softly now. For the first time in days, no weapons were firing. No shields were breaking. Inside the colony, quiet disbelief spread. Rian straightened his uniform. "Open a channel," he ordered. The screen flickered. A human captain appeared. His hair was short. His face was serious, marked by small scars. His eyes were steady. "This is Commander Rian of the colony station," Rian said respectfully. "We did not expect." The human captain interrupted gently. "You sent a distress pulse through an old emergency frequency," he said. "It was weak, but it reached us." Rian blinked. "We thought that system was dead." "It wasn't," the human replied. Rian hesitated. Why respond? After so many years? The human captain's expression softened slightly. "Because decades ago," he said, "this station saved a Terran explorer ship. The captain logged your colony as protected." Rian remembered. A damaged ship. A wounded crew. Long nights of repair work. "You remembered?" Rian asked quietly. The human captain nodded once. Humans do not forget debts. Behind the Valiant, more human ships held formation like silent guardians. For the first time since the siege began, the colony was not alone. And in the darkness of space, the void had not only answered, it had come armed. The battlefield was quiet now. Broken pieces of raider ships drifted slowly in space. Small fires burned on damaged hulls. Rescue drones moved carefully between debris. The human warship Valiant remained in front of the colony station like a wall of steel. Behind it, 9 more Terran ships held perfect formation. Inside the colony control room, Commander Rian still felt the shock of survival. Only hours ago, they had believed death was certain. Now, they were protected by a fleet powerful enough to shake the sector. Multiple escape signatures detected, a technician reported. "The raiders are gone." Rian nodded slowly. "Maintain scans." He did not trust peace yet. On the main screen, the human captain appeared again. His face was calm, but there was strength behind his eyes. "This is Captain Reed of the Valiant," he said. "We will hold position until we confirm no further threats." Rian bowed his head slightly. "We are in your debt." Reed shook his head.
"No."
"This was settled long ago." Rian hesitated. "You spoke of an old record." Captain Reed tapped something on his console. A file appeared on the colony screen. It showed a damaged human explorer ship drifting in space. Flames. Broken hull plates. Failing life support. "This was the ship your people rescued," Reed explained. "Its captain survived because of you." Rian felt memory return clearly now. He had been young. He had helped carry injured humans to medical rooms. He remembered their strange language and quiet determination. Our leaders logged your colony as under Terran protection, Reed continued. The record remained active. But that was only a promise, Rian said softly. Reed's expression hardened slightly. A Terran promise is not small. Before Rian could answer, alarms sounded again. Long-range sensors detecting distant movement, a technician shouted. All eyes turned to the screen. Far at the edge of scanner range, several new warp signatures flickered. Radar reinforcements? An officer asked nervously. Captain Reed looked down at his own data. Negative, he said calmly. Those signatures are ours. More human ships entered the system. Large carriers, heavy cruisers, supply vessels. Within minutes, nearly 20 Terran warships surrounded the colony. The message was clear. They were not leaving soon. Inside the Raider flagship, far beyond visual range, the Raider commander watched the new arrivals through long-distance sensors. So, one of his officers said quietly, they commit fully. The commander's jaw tightened. They risk open war for a minor colony. It seems so. The commander stared at the image of the human fleet. This is no longer a simple raid, he said slowly. This is a line drawn. Back at the colony, human repair ships approached carefully. Captain Reed sent another message. With your permission, we will assist in repairs. Rian felt pride and relief mixed together. You have full access, he replied. Human engineers began working immediately. They did not act like heroes. They acted like professionals. Damaged shield generators were replaced. Hull breaches were sealed. Communication arrays were rebuilt stronger than before. Inside one repair bay, Elder Bram stood watching human workers. They move quickly, one colony officer said. Bram smiled faintly. Humans are always ready. Later, Rian met Captain Reed through a secure link. There is something you should know, Reed said. Rian listened carefully. We captured one Raider vessel before they retreated, Reed explained. Their mission logs show this attack was ordered by a larger empire. Rian felt cold fear rise again. Then this is not over. No, Reed agreed. But now they understand something. And what is that? Reed's voice was steady. That this colony is not alone. Outside the station, Terran ships repositioned into a defensive ring. Weapon systems remained active. Patrol fighters circled slowly. The human fleet was not aggressive, but it was ready. Inside the colony halls, civilians slowly came out of shelters. They saw human ships through the viewing windows. Children pointed at the massive hull of the Valiant. They look strong, one child said. Yes, a parent replied softly. They are. In the control room, Rian finally allowed himself to sit. We thought no one was coming, one officer said quietly. Rian nodded, but someone was already on the way. On the bridge of the Valiant, Captain Reed stood alone for a moment, looking at the repaired station. One of his officers approached. Sir, long-range scanners show Raider fleet regrouping beyond outer range. Reed nodded once. Let them watch, he said. Should we pursue? Reed shook his head.
No.
Our job was protection. He looked back at the colony. And protection does not require conquest. In the darkness beyond the system, the Raider commander finally gave an order. Withdraw from this sector, he said coldly. For now. Back near the dying Red Star, the Terran fleet remained steady. The colony lights shone brighter again. And for the first time since the siege began, the people inside believed something stronger than fear. They believed in the sound that had torn through the void. The sound of engines. The sound of promise kept. The colony station no longer looked broken. Its outer hull had been sealed. Its shields were stronger than before. New sensor towers stretched outward like sharp eyes watching the dark. Human ships still surrounded the system. They did not leave after the battle. They stayed. Commander Rian stood beside the large window in the control room. The Red Star burned quietly in the distance. Between the star and the station floated the Terran fleet. They are building more defense satellites, an officer reported. Rian nodded. They work fast. It had been 3 days since the human warship Valiant had arrived howling from the void. In those 3 days, everything had changed. Human engineers upgraded power systems. Human officers trained colony security teams. Human supply ships delivered food, medical packs, and spare parts. It did not feel like rescue anymore. It felt like alliance. Inside a large docking bay, Captain Reed walked beside Elder Bram. Workers from both species moved around them. "You did more than defend us," Bram said calmly. "You are strengthening us." Reed looked around at the busy station. "If they attack again," he said, "you must stand on your own as well." Bram smiled faintly. "We understand." In deep space beyond the system, the Raider commander met with leaders of the larger empire that had ordered the attack. A massive holographic chamber glowed with symbols and war maps. "You failed," one high official said coldly. The Raider commander remained still. The humans intervened with overwhelming force. "They are not part of this sector." "They are now," the commander replied carefully. The chamber fell silent. "Will they escalate?" another official asked. The commander answered honestly. "If we strike again, yes." Back at the colony, a long-range message arrived. It was from the Raider Empire. The message was simple. "Withdraw your fleet. This system is not Terran territory." Captain Reed read it without emotion. Rian stood beside him in the communication room. "They are testing you," Rian said quietly. "Yes," Reed replied. He activated a response channel. "This is Captain Reed of the Terran warship Valiant," he said calmly. "This system is under Terran protection. Any further aggression will be answered." He did not raise his voice. He did not threaten loudly. He simply stated a fact. The message was sent. Hours passed. No reply came. But long-range sensors showed the Raider fleet slowly moving farther away. Inside the colony, life began to return to normal. Shops reopened. Repair crews finished their work. Children played in open halls again. But something had changed in the way people looked at the stars. They no longer saw empty darkness. They saw possibility. One evening, Rian visited the human flagship in person. The bridge of the Valiant was quiet and controlled. Officers moved with focus. "You risk war for us," Rian said as he stood beside Captain Reed. Reed shook his head slightly. "We risk war for principles," he replied. Rian tilted his head. "Principles." Reed looked at the main screen where the colony station floated peacefully. "Years ago, your people saved strangers," he said. "You did not ask what you would gain. You simply helped." Rian remembered those days clearly now. Reed continued. "Humans build many things. Ships, weapons, cities. But the strongest thing we build is trust." Rian felt the weight of those words. "And when trust is tested?" he asked. Reed's eyes grew firm. "We answer." Days later, the Terran fleet prepared to reduce its presence. Not fully leave, but step back. Before departure, Captain Reed sent one final message to the colony. "This sector will remain under Terran watch," he said. "If you call, we will hear." Rian stood in the control room, listening carefully. "We will not forget," he replied. Reed gave a small nod. The human ships slowly shifted formation. Several jumped back to their own patrol routes. The Valiant remained a little longer. From deep space, hidden sensors of the Raider Empire watched everything. They saw the discipline. They saw the strength. But most of all, they saw the loyalty. In the control room of the colony, Elder Bram stood beside Rian. "We thought no help would come," Bram said softly. Rian looked out at the stars. "Yes," he answered, "but help was already on the way." Far from the dying red star, across many systems, news spread quietly. The humans had responded. Not for conquest, not for territory, but for a promise made long ago. And in the dark between stars, where fear once ruled, there was now something stronger. The knowledge that when the void howls, sometimes it howls back. Months passed after the siege. The red star still burned quietly, but the colony station no longer looked small or weak. New defense platforms circled it. Fresh metal panels covered old scars. Long-range sensors watched every corner of space. Trade ships had returned. Life had returned. But something else had returned too. Respect. Across nearby systems, stories spread about what had happened. About how the raiders came with fire and fear. About how the colony had been alone. And about how a human warship came howling out of the void. Commander Rian stood in the control room, studying a report. 3 nearby systems request formal alliance, an officer said. They want shared defense treaties. Rian nodded slowly. Send them our terms. Peace first. Protection second. The colony was no longer just surviving. It was growing. On the edge of the sector, hidden in dark space, the raider commander watched from afar. His fleet had not returned. Orders from his empire were clear. Avoid direct conflict with Terran forces.
For now.
But the commander studied every movement of the humans. They did not conquer, one of his officers said quietly. They did not claim territory. No, the commander replied. They claimed something else. Loyalty. Back at the colony, a familiar signal appeared on long-range scanners. It's the Valiant, a technician said with a smile. The human warship had returned. Not for battle, for inspection. The massive ship exited faster than light travel smoothly this time. No violent rip in space. No emergency arrival. It moved calmly toward the station. Rian met Captain Reed again, this time face-to-face inside the docking bay. You return often, Rian said. Reed gave a small smile. We check on friends. They walked together through the station corridors. Humans and colony citizens greeted each other easily now. There was no fear between them. Training programs continued. Joint patrols were common. Communication lines were strong. You have changed the sector, Rian said quietly. Reed shook his head. You changed it first. Rian looked confused. When you chose to help strangers long ago, Reed explained, you changed the future. Later that day, an emergency alert flashed across the station. Unidentified fleet entering outer range, an officer shouted. Tension filled the control room again. Rian and Reed rushed inside. Scanners showed several warships. But these were not raiders. They were ships from smaller independent systems. They approached slowly, weapons offline. They request communication, a technician said. Rian opened the channel. A leader from one of the systems appeared on screen. We come to stand with you, the leader said. When we heard what happened, we understood something. Alone we fall. Together we survive. Behind Rian, Captain Reed watched silently. Within days, more systems sent representatives. The colony station became a meeting point, a place of defense, a place of unity. Far away, the raider commander received the reports. They are forming a coalition, one officer warned. Yes, the commander replied. And the humans are at the center. The commander studied the data carefully. They did not expand through force, he said slowly. They expanded through trust. He understood something important. A fleet can win battles, but loyalty wins wars. Back at the colony, Rian stood beside Captain Reed one last time before the Valiant prepared to leave again. This sector is stronger because of you, Rian said. Reed looked out at the gathered ships from many systems. It is stronger because of choice, he replied.
Choice.
You chose to stand, Reed said. You chose not to surrender. Rian thought back to that dark moment when shields were falling and hope was gone. We thought no one was coming, he admitted. Reed nodded. And that is when you are tested the most. The docking bay doors opened. The Valiant slowly moved away from the station. Its engines glowed softly, steady and controlled. As it reached safe distance, it entered faster than light travel. This time, the jump was smooth. But everyone watching remembered the first time. The violent tear in space. The roaring engines. The soundless howl that had broken fear itself. In the control room, Elder Bram stood beside Rian. The void was silent for a long time, Bram said. Yes, Rian answered. But not empty. Rian looked at the stars now filled with allied ships and shared patrol routes. No, he said softly. Not empty. Because now every system in the sector knew one truth. When darkness comes, when hope fades, when you believe no help will arrive, sometimes the void answers, and sometimes it answers with humanity.